Yes, hello there and welcome to today's episode of Weekend Rewind. Yes, this is when we put our hands back into the Join Up Dots vaults, swirl it around a bit and find an episode that maybe has got lost in the midst of time. And this is in response to the amount of requests we get from people who say, David, with all the episodes you've released, where should we start? Well, it's very hard to find a place, so we're just going to randomly pick one, and this is today's episode. Enjoy.
When we're young, we have an amazing, positive outlook about how great life is going to be, but somewhere along the line, we forget to dream and end up settling. Join Up Dots features amazing people who refuse to give up and chose to go after their dreams. This is your blueprint for greatness. So here's your host, live from the back of his garden in the UK, David Ralph.
Yes, hello there everybody. This is David Ralph and this is episode 366, which may not seem a lot to you at the moment, but for me, this is the second start of Join Up Dots. We've been going 7 days a week for 365 shows, and then if you listen to the bonus episode yesterday that we sent out, we've had an overwhelming requirement from all the listeners to go less. They said, you're overthrowing us with content. So we are now going to go 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday and Friday, a bit like EastEnders if you live in the United Kingdom, but with not as many arguments, I suppose. And I started on today's show with a bit of an argument because the chap came on the other end of the line and started criticising my football team in an instant. So I know that he must be an English guy because that's the way that we operate over here. So it's with great delight that we bring onto the show today a man who had a similar background to myself. He began his career in the City of London as a broker, and after a period of time knew that his time had come to go after what lights him up inside. In fact, it was a lot worse than that, as he actually became chronically depressed and knew that he had to do something about the way his life was going. And wow, didn't he do just that, as he's now a global adventurer, motivational speaker and philanthropist. He gave up the image of corporate success for a life on the road, which came about after being inspired by the movie The Motorcycle Diaries, which I must admit I've heard so much about now. I've got to find that on Netflix because I've never seen that. And he knew that the days of living and working behind his slab of wood were well and truly over. His new passion, finding ways for your inner rebel, that voice that tells you you're worth so much more than you think, to come out and play, is now him. It's his driving force. As he says, the inner rebel tells you that your life is yours and anything you dream of is possible. Anything. And that the fuel for all this delicious potential is simple: kindness and harnessing the power of human connection, and doing it all with a smile on your face and a spring in your step, and insulting people's football teams. I'm going to put that in little things at the end. So how did he take that first step when so many people would have thought that he had cracked it already? And does he look back at his past life and know that this was just one of his dots that he had to go through to get where he is today? Well, let's find out as we bring onto the show to start joining up dots with the inspirational Leon Logothetis. How did I do with your name? Did I do it well?
You did really well, except my first name is Leon, not Leo.
No, I said Leon. You're not paying attention.
I think I'm still in shock because all the Ipswich fans are just going to be really upset with me now.
Yeah, but I never mentioned the name, did I? I never mentioned the name, and nobody else listens to this show. It's just you and me, Leon. I've lured you on. So on your Skype, and I was just talking to you beforehand, you're in Los Angeles, you're in glamour, you're in Hollywood mode, and on your Skype it says, jump into the pool with your clothes on, it's really fun. Have you done that?
Oh, I've done it many times.
And
it really is fun.
And have you done it naked as well? Have we gone that far?
We have.
And was there other people involved, Leon? Were there other people involved?
Yes.
Leon, this is a family show. I've got to raise it. As soon as I possibly can. We're going on the wrong track. So how have you ended up in LA? And obviously we're going to go back to your time as a broker in the City of London, because I was up there for many, many years, so I probably walked past you. Were you one of those annoying ones with the stripy jackets, just before I sort of move on?
I was pretty annoying.
But did you wear that stripy jacket that looked like a weird deck chair?
No. I refused.
Yeah, because they were the ones, weren't they? So how did you end up in LA, sir?
Well, as you mentioned, I used to be a broker, and I found myself very disconnected from life, from my family, from my friends. I felt very depressed. I felt like I had no sense of purpose. I felt like I was living someone else's dream. And I couldn't take it anymore. Sometimes you get to a point where the pain is too much on an emotional level, and you have to do something about it. And I stumbled across the movie The Motorcycle Diaries, which is about Che Guevara, a romanticized version of Che Guevara traveling across South America, relying on kindness. And something happened to me after watching that movie. I had what I like to call an epiphany. And I saw that movie and I realized, here's a man who's able to do something and live fully, even though it's a romanticized version and it's a film. If he can do it, then I can do it. And I decided that I wasn't going to live behind that slab of wood anymore, and I was going to go out and live as fully and as exceptionally as I possibly could.
So how were the crabs in your life, the ones pulling you back to your position? Because we all have crabs surrounding us. And when you said, I'm leaving, I'm quitting, I'm going to get on a motorbike and I'm going to pretend I'm Che Guevara, did they go, Leon, take a few weeks off, go for a holiday, come back, you'll be all right? How did they try to route you to the spot?
Yeah, sure. They all thought I was insane. There was an element of truth to that. Sometimes there's an element of having to do something crazy in order to get yourself out of being in a situation that's so destructive. So yeah, a lot of us sit in our comfort zones and we can't find our way out. So yes, they were very much like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? Like, okay, go away for a couple of weeks or take a break or whatever. Don't just give it all up and, give it up. But it was more than that. It had reached down into the pit of my heart. I couldn't live like that anymore. I just couldn't do it. I just could not do it.
I understand totally, because I've had that feeling. That's why I've ended up doing what I'm doing now. I was in corporate world for a long time. And I know that certainly up in the city of London, it's all or nothing. They've literally have got you. Well, I found it. I was there sort of late 80s, early 90s to 2000. And if you got up there at 7 o'clock in the morning and your time actually started at 9, there would be somebody up there earlier than you. There was always somebody up there earlier, and there was always somebody later. And if you left at 7 o'clock in the evening, 2 hours late, people would still be going, what, half day today, is it? Oh, it'd be nice to have your life and all that kind of stuff. So I found it very, very difficult to separate myself from what they wanted and what I wanted. So I applaud you, sir. That is a brave decision. But was there any point in that conversation when you actually went, yeah, you're right. I'm just having a moment and I'll be okay in a couple of weeks?
Absolutely. And yes, of course. And we're surrounded by people, some good meaning, some not so good meaning, but we listen to others. And I think that's part of the problem. And I think that part of the challenge is that so many of us end up living other people's lives and living other people's dreams and living other people's sense of purposes. And we're all individual, we're all unique, and we all have our own way of doing things. And our way may not be the same way as someone else's. Like, for example, some people love working in the City of London. Some people love working behind a desk, and it inspires them, and they inspire others, and that's wonderful. It just wasn't for me, and it wasn't for you. So we're all unique, and we all have our own unique path that we need to follow. And it's sometimes easier said than done. It's not an easy thing to do. And like I said earlier, pain was the greatest motivator for me.
Well, but what is the brilliant thing about what you've done, and I see it so often with other people, is they get fed up with the job they're doing, so they quit, and they literally go and do the same job somewhere else. They're sort of ingrained. But you really did go hell for leather, motorcycle leather, basically, and that was good, wasn't it? It's an early morning, but the wit's still there. And so how did you do that? Did you just go, right, okay, I'm going to leave? Or did you start planning a route? How did it all sort of connect?
Well, look, the motorcycle journey was a journey that Again, it was inspired by Che Guevara, but it wasn't the first journey that I did. The first journey that I did was I traveled across America on $5 a day. So I relied entirely on the kindness of strangers. I went from Times Square to the Hollywood sign. And part of the reason why I did that was because, as I said, I was very disconnected. And I knew that if I took away my money, I would be forced to connect with people. And it was kind of like the total opposite to what I had been doing. I'd been sitting behind a desk crunching numbers and not really connecting with my heart, with other people's hearts. So I created this scenario where I would be forced to have no money and connect with you. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to get from A to B.
Did you not think, because when you said that, first of all, I thought serial killers. I'm going to end up in a box under somebody's bed for about 5 years. Did you not think that?
To be honest with you, I didn't do much thinking before I did this journey, because if I thought too much about it, I wouldn't do it. And that's one of my little tricks, is when I go on adventures, I try not to do too much planning, because then the mind comes in. And when the mind comes in, it starts telling you, oh, you know, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, don't do this, don't do that. So I only start thinking about it when it's too late, when I'm actually like in Times Square with $5 and I'm like, well, you know, either I'm going to go home with my tail between my legs or I'm going to get to Hollywood. And it was like, okay, I'm going to go to Hollywood.
Do you remember the original Muppet movie when they went off to, I don't know why it's connected me, but they went off to get Hollywood, and it was the focal point of starting the Muppets. Was Hollywood your point because it seemed glamorous and it was like it was a different world from what you were living, or was there another reason why you went there?
That's a good question. Never really thought about that. I would say yes. You know, look, I grew up with all the Hollywood movies, and I'd never been to Hollywood. And you know, you've got that big sign on the hill. It's where dreams come true. You know, it's also where dreams come to die, they say. But if you keep going and you never give up, it's where dreams come true. So maybe that's why I picked it.
It's a very romantic image, isn't it, to travel across to Hollywood, as you say. It is the movie capital, it's dreams, it's the silver screen. It's a story in the making, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's and I love storytelling, and I love being inspired by movies, by books, by art, by creativity. I think there's a lot of us that have this creative spark and we don't use it for whatever reason. You know, maybe we end up as brokers and we forget about it. And our little kid inside is screaming to be let loose and to go out and have some fun and to be creative.
Well, let's take you back to that little kid, the little Leon, and what was he like? Was he somebody that was always looking for adventure and running around and cycling around the suburbs on his bike and stuff?
You know, he was an adventurous little kid. I think maybe too adventurous, and the way that he grew up in a conservative family, and his adventure wasn't looked upon as positively as I look upon it. Let's put it that way.
And do you see a big connection with that little kid? Because we find time and time again on the show, literally every single episode, the people that have found their thing pretty much say, yeah, I should have known this. This is what I always liked doing, even as a little kid, but I lost my way somehow.
Absolutely. I tell you, all the things that I've done, all the adventures that I've been on, all the wonderful experiences that I've had have all come from that little kid's place, from the place of wonder. And I always say, you know, jumping into the pool with your clothes on, as a grown man, I probably shouldn't be doing that. But my kid wants to jump in the pool. He wants to have some fun. And if we lose that sense of wonder, we lose a massive part of ourselves. And I had lost that sense of wonder when I was working in the city, and I got it back. And it's such a a powerful thing that each and every one of us, if we can, should try our hardest to get reconnected to that little piece of magic inside ourselves.
I think there is a movement in that regards. I had I remember episode 352, there's a gentleman called Jason who was playing with his kids one day and was thinking, why are kids not stressed, but I'm stressed all the time? And he started looking at it and thinking, all these things that, and I'm doing a little quotey thing with my fingers here, all these things that are adult responsibilities, should they actually bother me? And he calls it adultitis, that we almost play a part of, no, we've got to grow up, we've got to be serious, and all those things are, the fun things are for kids or 2 weeks on holiday. So he's creating a movement to try to get people to connect with that inner self of going, yeah, it is something that I've got to pay. It is a bill that I've got to deal with. But hey, let's go down the park for the afternoon. Let's have a bit of fun. Make sure that the work-life balance is good, and we find that inner self. And he's getting requests left, right and centre from corporations to actually get that inner spirit, that inner rebel, as you're talking about, back into the office, which seems fascinating because I came through the corporate route and that was the last thing they wanted. I was always called a maverick. You always want to do things your own way. You are a rebel and all that kind of stuff, which why your sort of introduction really appealed to me. Can you see that there are more and more people out there that are going, no, enough is enough. I can see that Leon's doing it. I can see that David's doing it. Why not me?
Absolutely. And that's, to be honest with you, the reason why we're even sitting here talking is because I was inspired by people. I was inspired to see that anything is possible. I was inspired to see that I can be the best that I can be. And if in some small way I can inspire someone else to be the best they can be, then the chain continues. But I think it's very, very important to make the most of our time here. I know it's a cliche, but what's the point of being if we're not going to go out there and make the most of it and inspire others and be inspired and live in the deliciousness of life? I mean, what's the point, truly?
Well, there's no point, and I love that word, delicious. It was in the intro as well, because people don't use that word, do they? That something is so delicious that you just got to do it. You got to bite into it. You got to make sure that you take all the energy from it.
Absolutely.
Well, when you ended up at Hollywood, did you kind of go, right, okay, I've done it. What do I do now? I've just spent my last $5. Do I get a job? How did you fund yourself when you were working on that budget?
Well, I had obviously been working in the city, so I had some zeros at the end of my bank balance. So I was able, in that respect, I was fortunate enough to be able to go out and do what I needed to do. When I arrived in Hollywood, to be honest with you, I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to come to Hollywood. It's all going to work itself out. I'm going to become a legend, and it'll just be like I'll be like the next A-team cast member. But it didn't quite work out that way. And I actually ended up in some working behind a desk again, just for a little bit, not as a broker, but in the TV
America?
Industry. Yeah, in the TV industry. I started a TV production company. But I found myself again, it was the same thing. Even though it was being more creative, it was the same thing. I wanted to be on the road. I wanted to travel. I wanted to connect. So I quit that job again. So I had a second epiphany, actually on Hollywood Boulevard, of all roads. And I finally quit that job, took my desk and just threw it into the ocean.
You literally did?
No, I didn't.
That would have been
desk in the ocean.
That would have been brilliant. You lured me in there. I thought this is a brilliant symbolic statement.
I didn't throw my desk into the ocean.
Because you could have tipped it up the other way and then paddled off on it. You could have been really...
That would have been pretty cool, actually. That's not a bad idea.
I always had an image when I was at school. I don't know why I used to daydream that the place got flooded and everybody would drown except for me, who would turn the table up and then just float out on it. And I don't know if I wanted people to drown. I don't believe I did. But I think looking back on it, it was another way of me saying, I don't want to be in this room. I want to be paddling off. I want to be doing something fun. It's funny when these memories come back to you and you think, yeah, once again, that was me trying to escape from what society was telling me to do.
Yeah, that's very possible.
So with yourself, Hollywood Boulevard, I want to play the words now from a chap who spent a lot of his time sitting on Hollywood Boulevard, looking up at a sign and focusing on his future, visualizing on a daily basis. And these are words that Jim Carrey said.
My father could have been a great comedian, but he didn't believe that that was possible for him. And so he made a conservative choice. Instead, he got a safe job as an accountant. And when I was 12 years old, he was let go from that safe job, and our family had to do whatever we could to survive. I learned many great lessons from my father, not the least of which was that you can fail at what you don't want, so you might as well take a chance on doing what you love.
Should have said Leon at the end, shouldn't he?
That's a very powerful, that's very powerful.
Do you buy into what he's saying totally? Now you're doing effectively those words. Do you see it as a kind of mantra that most people should listen to on a daily basis?
Absolutely. I mean, and look, let's be clear, it's not easy. You know, if you have a job, if you have a family, if you have a mortgage, it's not easy. It's not easy to turn around and say, you know what, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to follow my dreams. It is not easy. But if you spend your life, I sometimes say when I chat, I say, imagine you're 95 years old. You look back at your life and you think, well, I've just wasted. What did I do? I was living someone else's life. Wouldn't it be wonderful to look back at 95 and think to yourself, I lived. I really fully lived. It's like night and day. But sometimes we get stuck. We get stuck in our routines. We get stuck in our comfort zones. We get stuck in the way society wants us to be. We get stuck. And it's a truly, and this is not an exaggeration, it is a personal tragedy if you don't go out and live your life to the fullest extent possible.
Have you read that book, The 10 Regrets of the Dying?
You know, I haven't.
Look it up. It sounds very depressing. Somebody told me about it, and for about 10 shows, I kept on mentioning it all the time because it was so depressing to me. But this nurse or the doctor was working in a haven where cancer victims were dying, and he went round and he was interviewing them all to find out what their 10 regrets were, and literally every single one said what you said, that they realised now that they were living somebody else's life. They were doing what they thought other people wanted them to do. They were following a path that wasn't theirs, but it was something their dad had done or their mum had done, or it was in the family or something. And all of them had that regret. And it really hit home as your words just now hit home again. And I think to myself, that can't be right, can it? That can't be right. Now, I never say, Leon, that everyone's got to go and be entrepreneurial, because I know that we need people. We need employees in companies, otherwise it will all crumble. But you can be happy, can't you? If you're in a job that isn't making you happy, but you know that you couldn't do it on your own, create your own economy, then do something, earn some other money that does make you happy, because it makes a hell of a difference.
It certainly does. And during my journey with the motorbike, I met this guy, this homeless chap, who ended up I ended up sleeping the night on the streets of Pittsburg with him. And he was just extraordinarily kind. And he taught me that true wealth is not in our wallets, but it is in our hearts. And he had nothing, yet he gave me everything. He protected me, he fed me, he gave me clothes, and it was like it changed my life. Truly, that moment changed my life, because I had always, certainly whilst I was in the UK, spent my life thinking that it's all about money. It's all about money. And don't get me wrong, money is important. It's important to have money. It's important to be able to look after your kids, to look after yourself. But what's more important is to have those riches inside your soul, to really be able to connect with people and to be able to see the world not just through your eyes, but through your heart.
And the guy in Pittsburg, was he surprised that you were somebody that quite simply didn't have to be sleeping on the street that night, or did he buy into what you were trying to do? I imagine that you had quite deep conversations.
Well, what I did in Pittsburg was I bought this vintage yellow motorbike and I drove it around the world relying on kindness. But there was a twist, and the twist was that the unsuspecting Good Samaritans didn't realize that I would be able to offer a life-changing gift. So this chap's name was Tony. So I spent the night with him, and he had no idea that the next day I was going to make an effort to change his life in a way. But it's like, it's just the depth of conversation when you're speaking through your heart as opposed to speaking through your mind is really what inspires me to keep traveling, to keep meeting people, to keep being changed by these people.
Does the travel wear you down, though? Is there going to come a time when you go, enough is enough? Because I literally, 10 episodes ago, I spoke to a gentleman called Jason Lewis, who was the first guy to go all the way around the world on his own power. So he cycled, he walked, and it took him 13 years to go round. And he said when he finished, he literally would almost feel like throwing up if he looked at a map. The thought of just keep on travelling really sort of wore him down. Do you feel that, or are you still a kid in a toy shop looking around with the wonders?
No. Look, certain times travel can definitely wear you down. And there are times when I get off a plane and I'm like, I'm never getting on a plane again, ever. I'm just not going anywhere. I'm staying in my house and that's it. And then a couple of weeks go by and I'm like, okay, maybe I'll get on a plane in a few weeks. And then a couple more weeks go by and I'm like, okay, let's look at the internet and figure out where I'm going next. So, but I do understand the issue of being worn out. But it's all, I always get driven back to it. It's like, you know how they say the travel bug. It definitely doesn't go away.
So how do you make your money? I imagine that's going to be the question. So many people are listening to this conversation. They're in their cubicles. They're traveling to jobs that they don't want to do. And they think, Leon's life, that's what I want to do. But how do you actually fund it and you're not just surviving on savings?
I write books. I do speeches. And I host TV shows. So that's primarily how I make my money. It wasn't always like that. It was for a long period of time. It was living off what I had made as in the city. But that's primarily how I do it. And I used to run a television production company as well that I created in LA. I don't run that anymore. Because my desk is in the ocean. That's it, really.
And do you look at those things and think, wow, I was a broker and I created a TV company. I was a broker and I'm now a TV presenter. If we took you back, which we are going to do later on, but to that broker time, would that blow your mind if somebody come across and went, here, Leon, guess what you're going to be doing in 5 years? You're going to be a TV presenter jumping into swimming pools naked with a load of other people.
I've ruined my reputation with that comment, by the way. But anyway, yes, absolutely. Sometimes I look at it and I pinch myself. I'm like, is this really happening? And then sometimes also, I don't know, you're English, you know what the English are like. We're very, I don't know, what's the word? I don't think the word's subdued, but we kind of don't take too much credit for what we've done. And we're kind of, and that's not necessarily what happens in America, but, you know, I grew up in England and I sometimes, you know, people call me, send me emails and they say, oh my God, you know, you've done this, you've done that. And I'm like, it doesn't. It sometimes seems like it's not really me. I don't know if that makes any sense. It kind of sometimes seems like it's someone else's life.
Yeah, no, I
is
can
weird.
see that. No, I don't think that's weird at all. When I'm doing this job, it's like I put on a cloak somehow. It is me. It's authentically me, but it's not the me that's walking down the street or being with the kids or all that kind of stuff. It's my own me. I come to the recording studio and I be the person that I want to be. So I understand that totally. And I think it gives you a chance to recharge, doesn't it? Because you're not totally out there being open to the elements all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I how that chap traveled around the world for 13 years, I don't know. I mean, the most I've been away from home was 6 months, and that was a long time.
So you wouldn't do a long journey like that?
Well, not for 13 years, but you never know. I mean, I don't know. I don't have kids, so I'm still pretty open to be able to do what I need to do. But I'm not sure. 13 years is a long time.
On your website, and I love this, and I know you're going to say this is a wind-up, but there was breaking news that Leon's running for president. A venture party targets Obama Democrats. What's that all about, sir? That
is me being silly. And I think that's my little kid coming out and saying, you know what, let's just go and have some fun. Let's not take this so seriously. Let's have some fun. I'm going to run for president, and let's have fun. That's it. That's really what it's all about. That's what jumping in the pool is about. It's about being silly. And I think silliness is a wonderful trait to have. And it's silly to say, oh, I'm going to run for president. Of course I'm not going to run for president. I was born in England. I'm going to run for prime minister.
And would you do that? Would you go for prime minister? Because I'd vote for you. I certainly would.
If there were 25 million ewes, then maybe I would.
That's the biggest herd of sheep, isn't it, in the world, or flock of sheep. That's astonishing. With your website, I'm looking at it as we're going up and down it, and the thing that I like, the kindness cab. Now that could be a film, couldn't it? That should be a film. You go round like Noddy in your little yellow vehicle, and if nobody knows what Noddy is, go and sort of Google it, and you bring kindness. That should be made, shouldn't it? I can see that.
Let's call Disney and make them make it. But yeah, that's another example of kind of merging fun, silliness with a message. And the kindness cab was a vintage London taxi that I purchased, and I drove it from Times Square to the Hollywood sign, giving free cab rides to people. So what I try and do all the time is have like fun and some silliness, but also a message. And the kindness cab message was simply to inspire kindness in as many people as I possibly could, and to give back, even if it's in a small way. You take someone. I remember we ended up going and buying this old lady, I think 96-year-old lady, some ice cream, and I only spent 1 hour with her, but it was 1 hour that was really moving and powerful. And it's sometimes the simple things. You don't have to get in a yellow motorbike or a green taxi or walk across America in order to change someone's life. It's like you go into a Starbucks and you give them a smile. You talk to them. You be nice to them. And these little things build up.
Taking from that 96-year-old woman, I'm going to take us, and this is a perfect segue, to a car that only your granny would be proud of. Now, you did something called the Mongol Rally. Now, I can't imagine that you would go in with that 96-year-old lady. But the first statement that you have on your site, the truth is, I probably shouldn't have done the Mongol Rally. Events happened in my first attempt that conspired to nearly rob me of my life. Inches, I tell you, inches. Things happened, bad things. When you look back on it now, is that sort of poetic license, or do you look back on it now and go, yeah, actually, that was one step too far?
It wasn't one step too far. When I go one step too far, I won't be around. And I say that because I remember in the Mongol Rally, basically the first year I tried to get to Mongolia and crashed in Romania, nearly died. And everyone was saying to me, don't do it again, don't do it again. I was like, absolutely not. I am going to do it again. I need to get to Mongolia. I tried it once.
Why did you say that? Why didn't you just go, yeah, fair enough. There's some things that maybe I shouldn't do.
Because I just felt, sometimes, of course, Winston Churchill.
Yes.
And one of Winston Churchill's very famous quotes is never, never, never give up. And that is one of my mantras. Never, never, never give up. And I wasn't going to allow a Romanian truck driver to destroy my dream of reaching the Mongolia. And also I had done this charity thing, which was 10,000 miles for 10,000 books. And my aim was to reach that goal. And sometimes, I'm sure this happens to you as well, one becomes obsessive in the sense of one sets a goal and one is not going to stop until you reach that goal. And for me, it was about finding my courage. It was about finding my sense of purpose, and not giving up, on that dirt road in Romania. It was not going to happen.
And did you forget those words of Churchill when you was a broker? Never, never, never give up. Because most of us kind of do. In a corporate gig, we get so into a routine that we forget those passions that you're talking about now.
Without a shadow of a doubt, whilst I was a broker in London, I wasn't really living. I wasn't living. I wasn't me. I wasn't Leon. I was a machine. Have you seen the movie The Matrix?
Yes. I didn't understand a moment of it.
Well, I didn't understand it for a long, long time. But basically, The Matrix is I felt like I was part of this system, this society that had me, 9 to 5, and my true essence, my true being wasn't being present. And Neo in the Matrix finds his way out of the Matrix, and that's to a certain degree what I have done by going out and doing all these adventures, by meeting all these wonderful people, by living from my heart instead of my mind. Too many of us live inside this system that is like a conformist system. And when you have crazy people jumping into their pools or into pools, it kind of like you look at them like, whoa, what's wrong with them? But there's part of you that looks at that and thinks to yourself, well, I wish I could do that. And that's kind of what happened to me with Che Guevara, the romanticized version of Che Guevara. I'm like, wow, there's a part of me that wants to do that. There's a part of me that wants that passion.
I want to do it as well, Leon. I want the passion to be... We've got a month until the general election. Come on, let's run. You and me. I'll be your Nick Clegg. You be Cameron, okay? And we'll be a passion party. Our manifesto will just be burn your pants and run down the street naked or something like that.
I like it.
And, well, it depends on who's taking the pants off, really, I suppose, because... Have you ever been in... No, I'm not even going to say that. Even for me, I'm not going to go that way on a show. So looking at your life now, would you recommend it to people? Would you recommend doing what you do? Or does it tie into, as you said at the beginning, it's so hard. It's not easy. It really isn't easy.
Look, there are certain things that inspire certain people. For me, it's traveling. That's what inspires me, and connecting with people and talking about my experiences. That may not inspire someone else, but the part of it that is universal is living your passion, is truly being present for yourself and taking your life and sharing the gifts that you have with other people. That's a universal. Everyone has a gift, whether or not it's being a baker, whether or not it's being able to connect with people, whether or not it's being an excellent broker. We all have gifts, and it's about taking those gifts and sharing them. I think it's another, again, maybe an exaggeration, but I think it's another tragedy if one has these gifts and one does not share them. It seems wrong.
And did you know you had the gift? Because I'm inspired. This conversation is really playing to what I'm all about. And I do feel like running around the garden and just shouting, come on, everyone, go for it. You're only here once. But were you aware that you had that in you all the time?
No. You know, when I would walk to work, I would not think to myself, I have all these gifts. I would be depressed, like I said, you know, and sometimes people say to me, oh, don't share that you're depressed. Well, why? I'm a human being. I mean, I still get depressed from time to time. And I was chronically depressed during that period of my life because I wasn't being authentic. I wasn't being who I really am. And there are so many of us that live like that. And it's a decision, it's a commitment to live as I said earlier, to live a delicious life. It's a commitment. You have to make a commitment. Do I want this? And it's not easy. There are things that happen along the road that you want to turn around and say, you know what, just forget it. I'm just going to go back to my old ways. I can't take this anymore. If you do that, you're going to end up being the 95-year-old who looks back on his life or her life, and you're not going to be smiling when you look back.
Let's bring on a guy who knows a thing about getting up, dusting yourself down, and going again. This is Rocky.
You, me, or nobody is going to hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
Now, I remember watching that film, and it was one of my epiphanies. I was just about to take the leap of faith, and I remember watching Rocky 6, and it was almost like there was no one else in the cinema. He was speaking to me. It was like he turned and faced me and said that, and I thought, oh my God, I know exactly what he means. Are you surprised at how much you can take when you're laying on that street in Pittsburg and you're wearing second-hand clothes that a homeless guy gave you? A few years beforehand, when you're wearing your nice suit and you're walking across the bridge in London, whatever, that probably was just a vision that you hadn't comprehended. Are you surprised by what you can actually put up with?
I'd say yes and no. I'd say I'm not surprised because I've been doing this for a long time, and I know that we tend to sit in our comfort zones and we tend to not fully live. And I would say, yes, I am surprised because no one wants to sleep on the streets. Yeah. But I only did it for one day. This chap was doing it for years. So I think sometimes yes, sometimes no. But again, I've been inspired by all these great people: Winston Churchill, Neil Armstrong, all these people that have lived wonderful lives and have changed the direction of humanity. And I look at them and I think, if they can do that, then I can do this. So I gain inspiration from other people's lives.
And do you, when you hear those words, obviously they're constructed for a film, but is there the same resonance as I have with them? Can you really grasp what Rocky's saying?
Absolutely. I mean, those words are extraordinarily powerful. If you think about it, how powerful they are extraordinarily powerful. Basically, what he's saying is, however much you get punched in the face, however much bad things happen to you, it's the mark of a great man or a great woman, how high you can jump from that point of being at your lowest ebb. And everyone can relate to that. It's connection. It's human to human. We all get it.
What I love about the join up dots metaphor, which is based around the speech that we're going to hear in a little while by Steve Jobs, is the fact that your dark dots, your black dots really are the ones that you almost should look forward to, because they're the ones that, although they're really difficult at the time, allow you to grow and allow you to move on to bigger and better things. And for many, many years, I couldn't see that. I would have kind of dodged the black dots and tried to stay in the sunshine and the good times. But now I've been on this journey that I'm on, and I've had some serious times when I've literally been on my knees thinking I can't take any more. But I look at it and I think, thank God for that, because I found better ways of doing it, or I've got stronger at doing it, and it just moved me on. Did you see that in your own journeys, that the dark dots actually, because you're far enough away from them now, actually become ones that you can reflect on and go, yeah, okay, difficult time, but I'm here because of them?
Absolutely. Some of the darkest times for me have fueled who I am today. And I like to say that I try and transform pain into gold. Sometimes I don't succeed, but more often than not, I do. It's so important. Again, Winston Churchill, another quote from the great man. He said, "If you find yourself walking through hell, keep walking." And whenever I am in like a bad place, I think about what he said, and I'm like, I am not going to stop. I'm going to keep walking. If it means I'm on my knees, if it means I'm crying my eyes out, whatever it means, I will keep going, because at the end of that tunnel, there is a light, and I have to reach that light. And the only way I'm going to get there is to walk right straight through the darkness.
And what has been your lowest time when you sort of look at all your journeys?
My lowest point.
Or maybe it was before you started your journey. Maybe your lowest point was being a broker.
It was definitely one of my lowest points, because again, if you're not living true to yourself, then you're just a shell. You're not really fully present. You're not who you're meant to be, and that's a very difficult place to be. And I've been there, and I don't wish it on anyone. And many of us are still there, and it's not a good place to be. And it's again, remember, 95 years old. You want to look back and you want to think to yourself, yes, I did it. I lived.
I think I have wasted, well, not wasted, because that's the beauty of everything. You get to a certain point because of the experience you've built up. And I can certainly join up my dots and go, yes, I can see how I went from that point to that point to that point to what I'm doing now, which I absolutely adore. But I do look at it sometimes and think, I started all this round about my 40s. God, what would it have happened if I could have done it when I was 20 or 30? Why did I allow that to happen? But hey, it happened, and I sort of move on from it. But I also think on the other side, Leon, and I think you will sort of go with this as well, a lot of the things that you're doing now, creating your own TV company, being a TV presenter, all that kind of stuff, you couldn't have done that sort of like 15, 20 years ago. You would have needed a major production company, but now you can literally get a little handheld camera, little microphone, go out onto the streets, and you're doing it. You're becoming a TV presenter. It's amazing how technology has moved on and helped us all to be able to see a future which maybe 20 years ago we couldn't have had, even if we wanted it.
Yeah, it's true. And, sometimes I say to people that, for example, if you're a mother and you're a single mum and you've got a couple of kids and you've got your job and you've got a mortgage and you want to be a chef, but you can't just quit your job. You can't quit your job and become a chef. How can you? You can't. I understand that. But what you can do is go to the library and get a book on how to become a chef, whatever, a book. And every Saturday, you cook for your kids. And then the next month, you go and get another book. And you cook for your kids on Saturday and Sunday. And slowly, you take baby steps. And who knows where you'll be in 6 months, in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years. Maybe you will be a chef. So everything is possible. Sometimes it's more difficult than other times, but everything is possible. And to say that it's not is a cop-out.
I believe that totally. Absolutely believe that totally. And I can see the progress I've made since doing this show, but it's only the start. It's leading me into places that I'm not quite ready for, but I can see what is possible. But you've got to do that. You've got to do that step by step by step. And it's exactly as Steve Jobs said, and we're going to hear from him now, that it's almost the time is going to happen anyway, so you might as well start. And unless you get hit by a bus, you're going to be here for a few years. And so you could become a chef by giving up 5 years of your life. You can do anything. And the best thing you can do, and the only thing you can do, is start. This is Steve Jobs.
Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever, because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart even when it leads you off the well-worn path, and that will make all the difference.
So where was your big dot when you started to truly believe that what you were doing wasn't just a holiday, it was something that was going to become your life?
I would say that it was the latest journey that I did, which was the journey around the world on the yellow motorbike. I got a book deal with an A1 publisher. I got a TV show out of it, and I started to realize, and I'd quit my job again, and I realized that I could make a difference in a positive way, and I could make a difference whilst I'm having fun, whilst I'm living my life, whilst I'm being fully present in my purpose. I would say it was that journey for sure.
And do you think that you could have only got to that dot by doing the life that you'd led getting there?
Look, I think maybe there could have been other dots. I mean, who knows? But I do certainly think that everything that I had done beforehand enabled me to get to this place. Specifically with, like, for example, I'd written my first book, and the publisher made the decision to give me the second book based on my first book. So I wouldn't have been able to do what I'm doing now had I not written that first book. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense, yeah. It's the step-by-step process, isn't it?
Yeah.
And where's it going to go? Just before we send you back at the end of the show on the Sermon on the Mic and send you back in time, let's go forward. Where's it going to go? What's on your mind at the moment to what's possible?
You know, what's on my mind is to continue traveling, to continue my adventures. I have this little theory, and my theory is that it's very important to find your passion. That's not sometimes an easy thing to do, but I found my passion. The next thing is to live your passion. And the third and most important thing is to share your passion. Because there is no point in going out and living and having this wonderful experience if you're not sharing it with other people. And I am where I am today because people have shared their passions in books, in movies, in one-on-one conversations. They shared their passions with me, and I took their passion, and I thought to myself, if they can do it, I can do it. And that's why we're here talking.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. This is the end of the show, and this is the part that we call the Sermon on the Mic, when I'm going to send you on a very short journey, but a very profound journey. And we're going to send you back in time to speak to your younger self. And if you could go back and speak to the younger Leon, what age would you choose and what advice would you give? Well, I'm going to play the tune, and when it fades you up, this is the Sermon on the Mic.
Here we go with the best bit of the show, the Sermon on the Mic, the Sermon on the Mic.
Little Leon, how are you? I want you to know that I love you very much, and that all the people that are saying and doing mean things to you, don't listen to them. The most important person is you. I love you, and I want you to remember that you're not crazy, and that all your dreams and all your desires are real, and I believe in you. That's the most important thing. I believe in you. Whatever anyone else says to you, don't worry about it, because I believe in you.
Leon, how can our audience connect with you, sir?
They can go onto my website, which is leonlogothetis.com. They can also Facebook me, tweet me, Instagram me, email me. But my name, LOGOTHETIS.com, Leon.
We'll have all the links on the show notes. Leon, thank you so much for spending time with us today, joining up those dots. And please come back again when you have more dots to join up, because I do believe that by joining up the dots and connecting our pasts is the best way to build our futures. Leon, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of Join Up Dots, brought to you exclusively by podcastersmastery.com, the only resource that shows you how to create a show, build an income, and still have time for the life that you love. Check out podcastersmastery.com now.
David doesn't want you to become a faded version of the brilliant self you were once to become. So he's put together an amazing guide for you called the 8 Pieces of Advice That Every Successful Entrepreneur Practices, including the 2 that changed his life. Head over to joinupdots.com to download this amazing guide for free, and we'll see you tomorrow on Join Up Dots.